Welcome back to another bike maintenance video. Now on the Ducati Monster, it's actually got a hydraulic clutch with this Brembo master cylinder here. A lot of bikes have a cable clutch, but on this one it's hydraulic. So now that we've bled the front and rear brakes, this is the next one that's got to be done as part of its 2-year service. This master cylinder has a reservoir just up here, and the cable runs from underneath all the way through underneath the headlight and pops out just here and comes underneath the radiator all the way down underneath the frame spar, and then follows along this cable here all the way to the actuator just here. And this is where the bleed manifold is. That's where we're going to connect our bleed device to. So first thing I've got to do is I've got to loosen this reservoir and get this reservoir to be upright, because otherwise when I take the cap off it's going to pour fluid all over the floor, which I don't really want. On this I've actually put my camera system and I've connected it to there, so I'll just give you a quick show of that while I've got this here, and then I'll turn this off and get the tools ready to take that reservoir off. So the camera control system I've just bolted to a bracket onto there. The two cameras I've got are by Inov. I've located one just here on a bracket just underneath the instrument cluster. The microphone actually sits in behind here, so it's out of the wind. The cables run through underneath the tank. I've actually got the seat off at the moment, and the back seat, so you can see where the satellite pickup is for the camera, and down in here, just tucked under there, is where the system is that controls the camera and where the memory is stored. Over at the back there's a cable that runs all the way to the back, and the camera is nice and neatly positioned right underneath the reflector, pointing out the back just above where the number plate would be. I can do a video on that later if anybody's interested, and show you how that's put on and how that works. But for now, first thing I'm going to do is remove this screw so that I can get this reservoir upright, so when I pull the cap off the fluid doesn't pour on the floor. So I'll go and get some tools and I'll get that done. Okay, so I've used a 4mm Allen key and an 8mm spanner just to remove that bolt just here. You'll notice also I've put a bit of lock wire just tying it to the mirror. That's going to stop that moving away because it's under the tension from this rubber hose underneath. I really don't want that flicking over under tension and throwing brake fluid anywhere. So I'm going to just put a rag also around this area, to just in case anything does splash out while we're working with this brake fluid, because it is corrosive to paint. While I'm on this side, I'll just show you here on the master cylinder it does have a bleed nipple just here, so if any air does get into the master cylinder, this is the highest point. Air is going to naturally rise to this, so you may want to bleed a little bit of fluid out from here. But for a fluid change, we're basically going to suck the fluid out of this reservoir, put fresh brake fluid in here, and then pump it down through the cable all the way down to come out to the bleed nipple here. I'll put that cap off while I'm here. And then out from there into our brake reservoir. So the next thing I'm going to do is go and get that bleed kit, attach that, and once I've got the setup, I'll give you a quick view of that and how it's set up there. Okay, so we've got the bleed system set up, got the spanner ready to open up the bleed valve, got the silicone tube which goes down into a bottle. And inside the bottle there's the non-return valve, so it won't suck up any air from the bottle back into the system, so that's pretty good. And a nice clear silicone tube, we'll be able to see when the fluid's coming out once we open that valve. So up at the top, I can take the cap off. Cap over here, my tray. There's the plastic cap, which allows the air to get into the reservoir. Get that off. And the rubber seal, which stops the brake fluid coming out. So I can sit over there as well. Right. I've got a syringe, which I'm going to remove this fluid, because I don't want to be pumping old fluid through the system. I just want new fluid to go through. So I'll remove most of that. I am not going to touch the clutch lever, because if I do that now, then I'm going to be pushing air through the system, something I don't want to do. So with that in place, I'll get some brake fluid and I'll just top up that reservoir up to the maximum, ready to start bleeding. Okay, so I filled that up with fresh brake fluid. The new brake fluid is slightly clearer than the old one, so we might see a change in colour down at the hose when it starts to be pushed through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pump this brake lever to get some pressure. Hold that brake lever in, so there's some pressure there. Keep holding that, and then I'm going to loosen this spanner so that when I've loosened the bleed nipple, the lever will push fluid through the system and out through that hose. Now, the one thing I would say, this is only a small master cylinder, and what I have seen before is when you pump the lever, sometimes the piston moving through the master cylinder here, going this way, sometimes pushes a little bit of fluid back up this way. So you might see a little column of fluid push up, and if you pump aggressively, you might even see a little bit of fluid jump out or jump up. So you just need to be careful when you're doing this to not pump this lever too aggressively. And then also keep an eye on this fluid, because if this runs out and runs right to the bottom, you're then going to start pumping air into the system and you have to do the whole thing again. So ideally, when you're doing the bleed, you don't want to let that fluid drop below the minimum line. So keep an eye on that while you're doing this. So I'll get this camera set up so you can see the tube while I push the brake fluid through, and this won't take very long at all. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze the clutch lever now. I can feel that there's pressure. So I'm just holding the clutch lever halfway in. Now I'm going to loosen this bolt, which would let the bleed nipple open. And as I pull the clutch further in, you can just start seeing some fluid coming out. So I'll hold the lever in now and pull the nipple shut. Now I can release the clutch lever. The fluid in the master cylinder has just dropped. And squeeze the lever again. Open the valve. More fluids come through and close it again. Now release the clutch. So when I release the clutch, that's when the fluid's dropping in the reservoir, the master cylinder's reservoir. So clutch in, valve open, little bubble come out, close, clutch out. Clutch in, valve open, a few more bubbles come out, close. Okay, I'm just going to keep doing that for a few times. I'm going to run a full master cylinder reservoir through and take that down to the minimum level. Okay, that's been a whole reservoir through. You can see that that is now getting towards empty. Okay, that's been a whole reservoir through. You can see that now that's getting towards empty. I don't want to go any further without putting some fresh fluid in there. And we've pumped quite a bit through. The problem with this one, or something to watch out for, is this reservoir is actually quite small compared to the larger brake reservoir, which is over here. So the fluid goes down quite quickly in this one. So I'll top that up and we'll just do a little bit more, and won't take too long. It's all should be almost all pushed out by now. Okay, so I've added some more fluid to the reservoir. I'll do that a few more times and we should be nearly done. The hoses here, even though they're about 6mm diameter, the tube inside that actually holds the fluid isn't really that big. It's probably only 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter, if that. Most of the diameter here is taken up by the braided steel, which actually gives it stiffness and stops the tube inside expanding, and that's what gives you the feel for your clutch or your brakes. Which is why braided steel hoses are better than the old rubber ones you used to get on bikes back in the 90s and 2000s. So I'm just going to do this a little bit more. Squeeze in the clutch, open the valve, fluid comes out, do it again. And tighten that off. There we are, we're done. You can see a little bit of fluid has gone from there again. I've locked that bolt off here, so that's all done. I'll just pull that tube off. Don't need that anymore. It's quite tight. There we go. And put the dust cap back on. Check the level in the master cylinder. Where are we? There's the minimum. The max is just up here, just on the top line. So they've got the levels between the minimum and maximum. It's not too high either, which I don't like running them too high. It means I can put the rubber seal back in and the plastic cap. And put the cap back on. Done. So final thing for me is just to re-screw that back onto this bolt here. Cut this wire off, put it back on there, and our work is done. So thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe.